Man, I think Tokay Geckos gets, especially now that I have personal um, interactions with Leachianis,
Yep.
Tokays get a bad fucking rap, man. There's no difference. No difference
Really?
between a
Okay.
Leechy personality and Tokay personality is exactly the same.
Hey, welcome back to the Gecko Cove Connection, the Gargoyle Gecko podcast. My name is Bobby, and in today's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to have on a guest that specializes in other types of geckos. So yes, this is a Gargoyle Gecko podcast, but we're going to have Dakotah from Dakotah Blue Exotics. Today, we're going to talk about things like what's the difference between our Gargoyle Gecko and a Tokay Gecko. What is his experience with gargoyle geckos? What's his experience talking about different geckos on YouTube? And much more. So if that sounds interesting to you, you're in the right place. Welcome to Gecko Cove. Welcome, Dakotah, to the Gecko Cove Connection. Thank you so much for joining me today.
How's it going, boys and girls?
Yeah. So, I reached out to you. I've been watching your videos for at least, I'd say I've been watching about 2 years now. And I've really enjoyed them. That you definitely bring a different energy than a lot of other YouTubers to the gecko hobby. And I think some of the first gecko videos I watched weren't actually gecko videos for New Caledonia. They were actually your Tokays. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to kind of see what got you into reptiles in the first place, and kind of tell us your story behind, your experience with reptiles.
For sure. So, unlike most people, you always hear people like as a kid they loved reptiles, right? I was actually
Yep.
afraid of reptiles. I still remember I was about 7 or 8 years old, and this was back. I used to live in Texas. A house gecko got under my bed. I slept on the couch that night. I was just for some reason so petrified of it. But as the years went on, I think we were supposed to go to like the Dallas Aquarium, but it was closed or something. And we saw there was actually a reptile expo in the area that same day. So we
hmm
went. I saw a bearded dragon wearing a sombrero just chilling there the whole time. And I'm like, damn, I'm going to need one of those. And so I think fast forward like 6 years later, stuff happens. I ended up moving back with my parents at 19. And I got that bearded dragon. Went over to New England
Nice.
Reptile and got me a little old subadult beardy that I have today, like 10 years later.
There, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually similar story. I obviously, well, not obviously, but I did not like reptiles growing up. I liked, you know, just seeing them and maybe the really tame ones like box turtles, but they did kind of scare me originally. I think growing up with a family that hates snakes, we hear a lot about that today. That you kind of grow up, and if the parents say I hate snakes, that the kids sort of hate them.
Mm.
I kind of got over that fear because I actually worked at a Petco as a dog trainer. So I grew up with dogs and cats and all the fluffy animals. And I remember just walking around and talking to all the employees, and they're like, "No, you got to check out these bearded dragons." And we had some baby bearded dragons, and I got to the point where I was able to handle them. And then what was kind of cool is I realized if I actually put them on my shoulder, they'd stay there. And so I remember one class, I actually did an entire dog training class with this dragon just on me. I took it out during the class, and the woman didn't even notice that I was doing the dog training session with that I had it on. And she's like, "Is that a brooch?" I'm like, "It's a really ugly brooch if it is," but no. So it was a lot of fun. Ever since then, I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole. But yeah, that's cool that you like you said, it's usually the story that you love it from a young age. So it's kind of cool to see someone else who kind of fell into it later on in life.
Yeah, later on. That's so funny. I used the, because, Petco has that dog training class where they
hmm
like teach you stuff and until you get like certified. I
Yep.
used that and then immediately quit to go get a better position from dog training.
Nice. So you went through that. Yeah, we can.
I think it was like a 6 week course or something with the guy. I really
Uh-huh.
liked my trainer. It was cool. But yeah, I immediately used that as leverage to bump myself up to a higher paying job.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's not the best training per se, but it definitely at least gives you a little something to leverage if you're
Yeah,
going to go off.
something on the resume.
Yeah, I just went into private training after that, but that's a different podcast. Very cool. So what got you into geckos in the first place? So we talked about the bearded dragon, but where did you get hooked?
So after the bearded dragon, my second reptile was actually a pair of crested geckos. And that was from my ex at the time. She really liked them. I was really into the beardy, but she wanted to not feel left out, so we got some cresties. One of them, I think like 5 years later, actually ended up getting out, and I never found it again.
Oh no,
Do you hear my
is that a
disgust?
Tokay?
Sneak peek from everybody. I actually just bought like three white's tree. I bought a bunch of frogs this weekend. I don't know why, but I have like
Oh,
three
nice.
white's tree frogs on this desk and temporary enclosures, and they're calling. I was like, is that my chair? What's going on?
That's awesome.
But yeah, I still got one of them, Almo. So I've had Almo for like 10 years, and that kind of got me on the gecko
Okay.
thing. But then when it came to breeding, I think it was 2015, 2016, something around there. I started wanting to get into breeding. Obviously, crested geckos are the easiest. Most of the information, or a lot of information on breeding, it's like the most informed breeding stuff comes from the crested geckos. So it's easy. I've been doing that for quite a bit. I think before 2019, I was really half-assing it. I produced like maybe a couple of babies here and there, sold them for like $20 at pet shops, things like that. But it wasn't until like
Sure.
2019 I started really taking it seriously. And just because I started with crested geckos, so I just kind of like kept it going with them. And then that slowly
Yeah.
evolved to other new cal. Tokays came along the way. And now I think at this point, we've done like so many evolutions of different projects. But for right now, I think our core stuff is going to be all new cal, Tokay geckos, and then also cave geckos.
Oh, nice. So, okay, that's interesting to me because, just from an outsider's perspective, I know you kind of as the Tokay guy. So I always thought you started with Tokays and then went into new cal. So you're saying you started with crested geckos, then got into all the other geckos.
You'll notice recently because
Yeah,
my Crested Gecko project that's now that I've actually looked in and taken it seriously. We'll be looking at next year since we've done so many grow outs. We're looking at like 200 to 300 baby cresteds next season.
holy cow.
Yeah, so I really I'm putting out the crested propaganda on YouTube, so it's in like all crested, and there are still people to this day. I've been breeding crested geckos now for like I don't know, like 7 years or something, and there's people
Yeah.
to this day that are like, I didn't know you did crested geckos. I'm like, fuck, man. So that's why it's been like all crested because I'm like hammering it to my community that I breed crested geckos.
Yeah, you got to get that out there just a little bit more because, yeah, I didn't know. So you heard it here first, guys. Yeah, he breeds crested geckos, plenty of babies to come. And I did see that you did a crested gecko versus gargoyle gecko video recently, and I've got
Yeah,
a
that
few
one actually
bones to
did.
pick with you.
Oh
Yeah, no,
yeah.
oh
It did
yeah, I
pretty good.
have to.
I didn't think it was gonna do as well as it did because I've done a few of those in the past and never did very well. But that one's like I'm definitely gonna make more of those like versus videos.
Nice. Yeah, I think they're good because especially with species that are so similar, you have to kind of nitpick which one do you want. Because when I first walked into my local pet shop in Chicago to pick out my first gecko, um, I didn't know what the difference was other than looks, right? And so it definitely does help kind of hearing, different people's takes. But I will say it's a different take because you gave it to the crested geckos for the win. And obviously I have to represent the gargoyles here being a gargoyle podcast. I have to disagree on a few things. You said that they were harder to handle. Now, is that truly your experience?
Okay, so from my experience from
Yeah,
doing this and producing a good number, I definitely produce a lot more cresses than I do gargoyles. But
yeah,
having a good growing amount from the life cycle, I have found that the majority of the time, and I actually made a because someone commented and it was a good point. This is
sure.
from the perspective of not socializing or socializing very minimal because obviously breeding and growing out, we're not really working with socializing the animal. We're working with
No.
growing out to breed. So very minimal handling in that aspect compared to the pet keeper. So it's
Mm-hmm.
with that in mind, I found their uh what's the word? Their
It's a little more
temperament.
jumpy.
The temperament between that
Mm-hmm.
style, crested geckos do become more tame than gargoyles. It's weird. Like as babies, gargoyles are
Yeah.
definitely more chiller and they don't bounce around as much as cresteds. But once they
Okay.
get in that teenage phase, it's either like they either stay super chill and you can just like hang them on you and they're just kind of like rocks, or
Mm-hmm.
they're super flatty, super jumpy. I had a male that I had for sale for like I think 2 years. I finally at Flora Fauna, I put him up in auction and he sold. That thing, you could not tell the difference between that and a gargoyle or a Tokay Gecko. They bark. This thing barked. It tried to bite me. It was flinging all over. It was the weirdest thing. So in my perspective, crested geckos do seem to have a more calm temperament than gargoyles. If we're not putting that socialization aspect on either one.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've only had a handful of crested geckos, and I've got, I think right now I'm up to 20 gargoyles, so it's not a huge sample population, but the few crested geckos that I've had are just absolute spazzes. There's a reason why I don't breed them right now. And I know that there are really calm ones out there, especially the adults. But like you said, as babies, that's usually what I'm buying. They're a little more spastic. They're kind of derpy. They'll just jump into the air and try to fly like Superman. And for me, the gargoyle babies, they're not hard to handle for me. And like you said, I do agree that when they reach that teenage stage, yeah, there are some that are just a little bit more crazy than others. I have a male that when it's time for him to go back in his enclosure. When he's done being handled, he will bark at me, gape his mouth. I've never been bit, but he's definitely, one to vocalize a little more, where a lot of my girls just chill.
I always find it's the males that are like always a bit jumpier than the, like even with my cresteds, I don't think I have a super flighty crested, but all my males are kind of jumpy. My lily whites are awful. I don't know if it's like gene specific. I haven't seen. Again, small sample size. I have two grow out, one adult, a grow out female, and then I just hatched some babies that I'm holding back. But with that sample size, they are all awful. My male is the worst. He's bouncing off the walls. I have him like on the highest part of my rack system, my little baker's rack, just so we can like feel a little more secure up there. Because if he's any lower, like next to me, he's the worst.
Well, yeah, they all have different personalities, and maybe it's the testosterone in the males. Who knows? I don't know how much testosterone a gecko has, but
I mean, with balls that size, I imagine it's a lot.
So, yeah, get him on some. If he starts calming down, get him on some TRT or something.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh man. Yeah, they all have different personalities, and that's what's kind of cool about keeping my collection somewhat small right now, is that I definitely know all their different personalities. How many geckos are you rocking right now? Like, what does your collection look like?
Oh, geez. So going into
rough estimates.
Going into 2023, it looks like we'll have about, I guess, like estimating, we'll have 30 female crested geckos to pair.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4 gargoyle girls to pair, 2 Chihuahua females, a lychee pair, 2 cave gecko pairings, and then I think we're at 9 Tokay Gecko pairings.
Nice. You're gonna have your hands full, that's for sure.
It's going to be a big season next year. It's going to be a little rough.
Do you do most of that by yourself too?
I do it all by myself.
Yeah. So are you full time, or do you have a different day job?
I've been full time. COVID was like a blessing in disguise for me.
Yep.
So I got laid off, and because I got laid off, I got them sweet COVID checks, man. That's $600 a week, and I used that, and I was like, "Fuck this, man! I'm gonna just do this. I'm not gonna go get another job." So I had my post office job on Sundays and just Sundays, and then I did this up until I think June. Whenever I moved, it was like 2 or 3 months ago. I finally quit that post office job. So now, as of 2 months, I'm full. This is my sole income at this point.
Cool. Well, congratulations on that. I know that's the dream of a lot of people. Wanted to do that full time. Well, you said you moved about 3 months ago?
3 months ago.
Did you? Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Talking to some other breeders, they said that moving geckos and also, just even some major rearrangement in their enclosure can really postpone.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I can swear on this.
It's not for kids.
You click that no button on YouTube.
I click. Yeah, exactly. I try to make it so I can show my kids eventually, but they've heard me say worse in front of the dog. So not the end of the world. So plus I can edit it out.
Yeah, it messed it up. This is like the worst year we've ever done. So I think. And we've started, again, my crested geckos have been really light. It's been me growing out these babies for the past 2 years now. that's really going to get it going. So 2 years ago is when I kind of started taking Crested a little more seriously than I have been. So I think
Yep.
we gave a couple girls a year off because they were first years. I run them their first year, and then I give them a year off, and then I'll usually do them steadily.
Okay.
That's just because usually, and I don't know, so sometimes I feel like I might do them a
Yeah.
little.
What's your theory behind that?
Well, personally, for me, the issue is the minimum weight keeps changing. I remember when I first
Yes, it
started, it
does.
was 35 grams. Now it's 40. I think we're up to like 50 grams, which in
Yep.
some cases, depending on the genetics of your gecko, is simply impossible. I mean, some of these geckos just aren't genetically, aren't bred to get that large, right?
Hmm.
So it's a little bit difficult. So I usually run my girls like around that 35. I like the 35 to 40 range minimum. I'll never go any lower than that for females.
Yeah.
But
Minimum 2 years.
yeah, minimum of 2 years.
Okay.
And then I'll run them their first year. They usually, when they're at that size, they usually do drop some weight with breeding. So that's a really taxing thing. They're laying like 10 clutches of eggs somewhere around there. So then I give them the previous or the following year off for them to get that strength back, get even more size. So at that point, they will hit, depending on the gecko, somewhere around
Yep.
that 40 to 50 mark. And then I usually will run them yearly.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense. It's crazy. Even when I was just first starting to try to figure out, okay, when can I actually breed these geckos? I went to Tinley and I was talking to a few different breeders, but I remember talking to Northern Gecko from Canada. And
I love Northern Gecko.
yeah, I've got one of his girls and she's huge, but really, really nice people there. And they were saying they wait till 3 years now. And I'm like, well, that's easy for you to say. You got a whole bunch of geckos. 3 years is nothing. I'm trying to get started. I waited till 2.5. I kind of split the difference from what I was hearing. But yeah, no, it keeps, I feel like the age keeps rising. The weight keeps rising in crested geckos and in gargoyle geckos. And some of mine will grow. Some, are 60 grams within a year. And I've got some that are still sitting around 22 grams at a year.
The
So
funniest thing with my gargoyle, this actually happened. This is the second or third time this has happened. The year before, I'll like take a look at them. I'll be like, nah, you're a little too small. I don't want to breed. We'll wait till next year. They laid duds that entire season, and I'm not even look. The first one was my red base girl. The year before I bred her, all of a sudden I'm doing a substrate change, and I'm like, there are like duds of eggs in here, and now
Yep.
I mean, I got a girl. She's probably like I gave her probably around 30 grams. She's actually pretty big at this point. But
Mm-hmm.
duds, Anthony Kate, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're so small. Like I'm not cycling
Yes.
them. I'm not. That one's a Tokay.
Nice. Yep, you can hear that.
We just paired them, so that's music to my ears. That means they're gonna go do their stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I wish they would announce it here with the gargoyles too. No, that's really cool. Yeah. Where were we? What
So
were
I
we
don't know.
just
I think
talking
it just
about?
I think it just depends on the gecko. I always
Oh,
think
yeah, the size. So yeah, because I've got a girl here that she is 3 years old, but she is just one of those really slow growers. I was actually talking to another local breeder, and he's like, "Yeah, she just may never get up to size, but she's been laying duds for about a year and a half now." And like you said, it's weird. She's maybe 32 grams, and just not putting on weight. And I do everything else the same as my other geckos, but she's laying duds consistently.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
And at the end of the day, man, you can leave it up to the geckos. Like some of these
yeah,
geckos, they don't have the genes in them as these other geckos to get that big. But if she's
right.
laying duds, you might as well fertilize those eggs because she's
Yeah,
gonna lay them regardless, and she's gonna
she,
lose that fat, lose those calcium reserves. I guess technically, it will be a little bit harder with actual fertilized eggs. But either way, she's making
yeah.
those eggs. You might as well run it.
Yeah, you're either, she's using either 80% or 100%, at
Exactly.
that point. Yeah, that makes sense. So, one of my other favorite videos that you did, I'm not sure how long ago this was, but you went and did a whole gargoyle video with, I think it was Andy Simmons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never heard of him. It sounds like a really knowledgeable guy. How did you get in contact with him? And, what did you kind of take away from that experience, kind of thinking back on it?
I think Andy's, and I don't want to, I love Andy. I think he's one of like those old heads, doesn't really do social media. I think his
Mm-hmm.
social media handle is like Andrew's bottom slash reptiles, bottom slash. It's like, it's not SEO friendly. It's super hard to find him. He never posts on anywhere, but he
Yeah.
produces some great stuff. And the thing I love about Andy is he's again one of those old heads. He's like, oh, these people are insane with their gargoyle prices. I'm going to price them the same way I priced them back in 2010. I'm like, thank you, Andy. So
Yeah, I'll take that.
that beautiful red-based red stripe girl, $400, ready to breed the next season. I'm like, I mean,
Oh.
probably market value, I'd put her at like at least 4 digits. And he's like, 400. I was like, yeah, here. And
Yeah.
I think it was, I don't know who it's his helper, his little worker. It's a kid. I don't know what the connection is between them. I
Sure.
don't want to say son if it's like not his son.
Right, but
But he ended up watching me. He's a big fan, and so he invited me over to his place. He was only like, I think, an hour and a half away from me, and so we got to go and check out his stuff. He actually ended up giving me a male that day, a beautiful another red-based red striped male. So next season we'll be pairing. That male will be old enough because it was just like a little boy, but he'll be old enough. So we'll be doing a red-based red stripe pairing for 2023.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, obviously, that's one of my favorite combinations. Have you seen any of my geckos? Have you seen my girl Eve?
I took a scroll of your Instagram. I don't know who's who.
Yeah, she's that bright red gecko that like almost looks like she's one solid color when she's fully fired up. It's fun, too, because when she's fired down, she's still got the red stripes, but she's almost purple. Almost like if she was a boy, she'd be named Barney. But yeah, it's a great combination. Some people love it. I find it very polarizing when I tell people about her with the red stripe on red base. But I like it. So sounds like you like them, like those two.
I don't know. I'm not really into the Garg community. I know they're a bit of a stickler just because I think for at least in this point in time, it's all phenotype based stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think.
much.
I mean, I guess there are. I think David from Tiki's, there's hypo now,
he's got
or
white boy.
amelanistic, something like that.
I'm not sure if it's proven out yet. There's still a lot of debate on it. But yeah, we're pretty much there.
We're pretty much all line bred phenotype stuff at this point. So people really, they like what they like, and it's kind of just, which is cool. Sometimes I actually prefer that more than Cresteds, although Cresteds are kind of until recently. Now we got these morphs, and it's a ball python
really
game.
Yeah, I mean, it recently was that, and then really, I think, what was the first real big gene? I think Lily White was the big first gene that came out, and that blew it up. I mean, those things are just gorgeous. I don't think I've met a single person that goes, those are disgusting.
And now we're kind of going right back to it because now everyone does Lily White, so now we got to get the most unique Lily White.
Yep. Yeah, well, now you got all the cappuccino in there, the Axanthic, and now Pixel, and all these other things are popping up. And some of them, I'm like, the genes are so small, like I can barely tell they exist.
That's what we're doing. We're back. This is like the second coming of ball pythons. It's whatever.
Yes.
There's now rough scale, soft scale, super soft scale, and it's
empty back. I still don't understand empty back.
Empty backs are cool. Don't harp on.
They're
empty
cool.
backs.
I just don't get it. I just
whoa. How do you not?
I'm like, it's not
it makes
fully
the
empty.
Back empty, does it not?
But
I only
that's
have
a super empty
or
back.
like the first copy of it.
But isn't that a super empty back where it's fully empty?
Yeah,
like an empty back.
Whoever named this fucked up. That's the issue is because it's a code. It's a code dominant mutation.
Right.
So the super form makes the empty back. So
Correct.
I understand that. I think it's why a lot of people use het, which confused me because that made me think, oh, it's a recessive mutation, but no, it's co-dominant.
Yeah, it's co-dominant, and yeah, I think it's a cool mutation. Don't get me wrong. I just think that the naming is confusing for most people.
And most of these names are dumb. I gotta get a hold of a Crested mutation. I'll finally name it something cool.
Fair enough. Yeah, I feel like, you got to breed thousands and thousands of an animal. You're not going to like have a collection of 20 or 30 and pop out a new gene. I mean,
soft
maybe you
scale?
get that lucky.
Why? It's not soft.
It's like a micro scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it is?
Why didn't they name it like micro or something? It makes soft scale. It makes the scales smaller, which then ups the saturation of the animal. Because science, I don't really know how it works. I just know what it does. And for some reason, it also makes the heads bigger, or at least what I've seen. I don't know if that's just whatever came from soft scale was a big-headed animal, so those genetics are passing on. But I haven't seen a poor crest soft scale yet. But someone's going to send me a shitty picture on Instagram and prove me wrong.
I will prove it exists. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, but gargoyles, no, it's all, basically all we have is blotches and stripes, and you talk to different breeders, and some say to mix them, some say don't mix them. If you talk to Paul at Rack House, the base color is completely separate than the pattern color, and basically if you mix two extremes, you negate it, and it turns into an ugly medium, quality gecko. So I think it's still the Wild West with gargoyle geckos. People, other than some of the best breeders out there who've been doing this for a while, we don't know what we're doing. We're kind of putting two pretty things together still, hoping to God that it comes out. I put two gorgeous stripes together, and I came out with mostly blotch babies. So,
Well, what I was gonna say, actually, Andrew's the one that told me this. He was
yeah,
saying like the what can make up the pairing can go back even like 5 generations back. So he's saying like the biggest influence can potentially be the great 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 grandfather and grandmother of those pairings, which is always
yep,
interesting. So I think that's why. And I haven't done that. I'm getting so from this day forward, like 2 years ago, I've really paid attention to lineage, where the animal's coming
uh-huh,
from, what it is. I haven't done this, so a lot of most of my gargoyles don't have any lineage. My chihuahuas don't, but my lychees and all my new cresteds do. But that is kind of the problem. Is like you're selling animals, but I don't know what the parents or the grandparents were, so you don't have like
right,
100% of a good guess. I've had good luck so far, where I pair stuff and it does do a good mix. Like I did I believe they call it bacon stripe. I want to say for it's like a
yeah.
brown gargoyle with. I don't fucking know what I'm doing with the
I think
gargoyles.
those are like it has red and then it has orange on the outside, or maybe that's the reverse, and you flip that. I'm not 100%, but
Maybe
yeah, I
mine's
think it has
not a
something to do with the
bacon.
stripe.
Maybe I'm fooling the public all these years. I don't know. I got a nice like brown
Did you
and
lick it?
cream.
Does it taste like bacon? No.
Well, I tried, but it bit me, so I stopped doing that. So I've been
Nice.
pairing him. I found even though he looks really ugly. It's not a
Hmm.
good male, but he does produce like kind of nice looking stuff. It has stuff that has a lot of orange in it. So I paired
Nice.
that recently with the red based red stripe female because that was the only pairing I had at the time. And they produce it's like a great combination of them. So you get those bold red stripes, but you get the cream going on from the male and the orange from him. So I think they produce some nice like 6 line stuff. I held back
Nice.
all the really nice 6 line stuff, but there's still some broken 6 line stuff that's will be available here in a couple of weeks.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's another thing that I'm trying to figure out, and hopefully I'll flush it out in one of my podcasts, is the terminology that we throw around with gargoyles too. This a 6 stripe versus a super stripe versus a quad stripe. And I could list a bunch of more, but what people think is a 6 stripe versus what I consider a 6 stripe can be somewhat different, right? To me, a 6 stripe has solid dorsal striping along with the four or side striping versus four on the back, and that would be a full 6 stripe, nothing broken on the laterals. And I see so many posts, saying, "Oh, I got a 6 stripe here," and it's all broken up on the side. I'm like,
There's like
"All
a
right,
couple of dashes on the side of orange, and
yeah," I'm
they're like,
like,
"Yep."
that's not 6, but whatever, you do you.
It's the people.
Um,
It's the people with crested geckos that claim they have an extreme harlequin because there's just one spot on the side
yeah,
dorsal that creeps up to the top dorsal, and they're like, "Yep, I got an extreme."
yep. Oh, that's awesome. Well, you've done so many Crested Gecko videos, like I said, and just I would say, how many gargoyle videos have you probably put out?
I mean, not that many. It's
Not that
only
many.
I've only had like one pair. I started out with a pair. The female evidently passed. It was actually Tiki's made a video of that. This was like way back. I think when I like first started, to like 2019 ish. I didn't like
Okay.
have a good grasp of what I was doing. I was keeping stuff way too moist, and it got that I don't know if it's like a bacterial infection or a fungus on the pads. Tiki's made a video about it recently, and that she
Yeah.
ended up passing because of that.
Sorry about that.
It was a big bummer. So then I just had the male. I grew out some of her babies, and then we just got the red base red stripe. I think was our newest gargoyle. So we've just been kind of like babies. So not much with like producing guards. We've just been like holding back and growing stuff out to get just a bigger project going.
No, that's fair. It's one of those things where I don't think Gargs obviously get enough attention, and so I'm gonna poke you a little bit to give us some more Garg stuff because I like your videos. So I would love to see that in the future for sure. Um, you know, where do you see your gargoyles going? So you've got the red stripe, red base female. Um, you know, are you looking to purchase a certain male that's going to take them to a certain direction? Where do you envision your, you know, gargoyles going in the future? I know there's not a lot of avenues to go, but what do you like the most? Are you a stripe guy? Are you a blotch guy?
Ah, honestly, I think like out of all my stuff, the sorry, this gecko's hanging weird. It freaked me out.
You're good.
And so far, like the gargoyles have really taken like a back burner because again, it's just like growing stuff out. So I don't really have a
Oh yeah,
specific avenue I'm going. I just like gargoyle geckos. I think they're cute as
yeah,
babies. So I'm just trying to like make pretty ones from like what I have right now. I think something that is very I know because everyone. I'm mostly talking. I don't know much about the blotches or the reticulated ones. I'm really just
sure.
more. I am more of a striped guy, but I don't think
Okay.
enough people are paying attention to the yellows. Everything's about red right now. Everyone goes red crazy. I kind of dig the yellows. I have this gorgeous yellow-based, yellow striped girl. Um,
Hmm.
I've had her for like 2 years. Has yet to produce for me. I actually hate her. I might sell her next year. I give her. There's a 3-year eviction policy. If she's not going to produce for me next year, I have another male I'm going to pair her with and see if he can get the job done. But I
Yeah.
hope I can get something out of him because I have a really nice light male that'll go perfect for her. But I like the yellow stuff. It's a nice like golden looking gecko. I think it's a little bit of an underdog that I'm trying to solidify my place in that.
Yeah, I like those. I see those posted every so often, and usually they're adults. So I don't know what the babies would look like. I don't know if you can tell right away with a yellow gecko, because some of that color does develop. But yeah, they kind of look like little bumblebees to me, right? Especially with some of that reticulation. And if it's really, really dark when they're fired up, and that yellow is bright, it's a
Yeah.
gorgeous gecko. I'm totally with you.
And they're so
Um,
cheap right now. That's the best part. I'm
yes.
not spending $30,000 on a red striped male from the Dracula lines or the Red Pools. I'm going with my
Mhm.
$400 adult yellow stripe.
Yeah, hey, you know what? That's what's going to get you your morph so that you can name it something. You know,
That's
start
my
thinking of
long
the
game.
name.
Eventually, you can only do so much with the red shit. People are gonna go looking for something else, and old
Yep.
Dakotah's gonna have that something else.
Yeah, I think my direction, what I've kind of noticed with my geckos, obviously I have a lot of red stuff, and I love red stuff. But the bicolors. When I was talking, it's a rack house a few years ago. That was one thing that was put out. It was the bicolor. He kind of showed me that even exists. And then I picked one up from Firehouse Geckos, and the orange and the red. If I could get yellow in there and do a whole sunset kind of look, that would be sweet. But I have no idea if the genetics even are there for that.
Oh, that's like
Especially like if I could do a
that's all my babies right now are
yeah.
bicolors. Then, yeah,
Yeah, I love it. Especially imagine if you had a yellow base and then the bicolor on top of that,
that'd be dope.
right?
That'd be good. I'll have to send you a picture. I have one. One came out like really nice, solid all around. It's got the middle dorsal is pure red, and then it's got orange complementing the outer sides, and then it has some also orange down the side. But it's a really nice
Nice.
gecko. That was the one I held back, and I think I have like four that'll be for sale in a couple of weeks. But I held back two because again, I want to keep growing that project a little more at a time.
Sweet. Nice. Yeah, no, it's hard to, this is my first year breeding. I don't know what I'm supposed to hold back. Luckily, the economy right now is forcing me to hold back a lot of stuff.
There's just hold back
Uh,
everything. My biggest mistake when I first started was I like held back one or two animals.
yep.
These days, like for Cresteds, I held back I think like 25 geckos out of like four pairings, I think, or two pairings maybe. The
Hmm.
majority I held back, and so that's what you do. Then you grow them out, and now like me, you got like 20. Well, depending on your odds, I had really good odds this time. I think only four turned out male. But out of all my grow outs, I got like 20 females for then
That's
2 years
awesome.
from now. And then you can start like nitpicking and then swapping and things like that. But when you're first starting
Okay.
out, hold back as much as you can, at least from each pairing, and then get some more stuff from that pairing. So you always get more geckos as you go along.
Right. Yeah, no, I would do that in a heartbeat. I probably will try to do that. My problem is that this is a really expensive hobby, and my wife keeps looking at our bank account going, so when is that going to start going the other way? When is that going to start producing? And I'm like, give it time. So I'm not going to get rich off this, that's for sure. But we're having fun. So speaking of, just how expensive everything is, you have not just geckos, you've got a lot of stuff. And actually, when you look at your channel, You look at your top videos; they have nothing to do with geckos.
I
I
think my
think
best
dubia
video to
roaches.
date, yeah, it's dubia roaches, and I
Yeah.
made one White's tree frog care guide like
Yes.
I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's the best performing video other than that dubia one. A frog that I don't even own up until a couple of days. That's why I look at it. I'm like, shit. I like White's tree. I'm gonna get back into those bad boys.
I was gonna say, yeah. As soon as you said you had white street frog, I almost jumped to this question. But it's like, yeah, I noticed that. What do you have? Like 60,000 views on that one video. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't
So,
understand. That one just like blew up for some reason.
did you own one at the time?
Yeah, I had someone
Yeah,
gave me theirs because I don't know, they just didn't want it. I think they're the
yeah,
coolest. White tree frogs are the best frog in my opinion. Easy to care for. They're the goofiest little things, and they look really cool.
yeah. You can't go wrong. They're so fun. I think there's some other. I don't know who has the channel, but there's a really cool like YouTube channel where he puts it. It's kind of a forced perspective, and he has it
Yeah,
blown up, so
I
the
see it
thing
on
looks
TikTok.
massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
So
shit. How
I'm
do I get
like,
mine that big? I was like, no, there's no way.
imagine doing that with a Tokay.
I'd do it.
Yeah.
Put that bad boy in a grow tent.
So, I mean, gargoyle geckos to me are some of the prettiest, especially, some of the bright reds. The blotches are kind of my thing, even though I love the stripes. There's something about just that random pattern that's unique. But I have to admit something. Tokays to me are the prettiest gecko. I think just naturally the way they come without any human interference, I think most people will agree that Tokays are probably one of the prettiest geckos out there. How long have you been keeping Tokays, and what inspired you to pick up your first one?
Man, I think Tokay geckos gets, especially now that I have personal interactions with Leachianis.
Yep.
Tokays get a bad fucking rap, man. There's no difference. No difference
Really?
between a
Okay.
Leechy personality and Tokay personality is exactly the same. Defensive, mean bite, loud, and big. No, I mean, there's difference with
Hmm.
care aspects, but I think that temperament-wise, they're pretty much the same. I think the only issue with Tokay geckos is they're still imported. So, from my knowledge, New
Yeah.
Caledonian importing has stopped for a while
Yep.
now.
Completely.
And I think that's what jacked the Leachianis prices up. And I mean, come on, Tokay geckos, they're way prettier than Leachianis are cool.
They
You get
are.
some cool stuff, but you can get way cooler Tokay geckos. It's the second largest versus the largest gecko. If it wasn't for the importing, and now unfortunately the invasive population in Florida, even with importation of Tokay geckos getting a little bit more stricter, I think they'll unfortunately always be a little low, just because now we have a readily available group from Florida that can always be imported for that like low $15 price tag.
Which is sad. And I think luckily I've seen since I've joined the hobby, really dove into this. Captive breeding has been something that's been pushed by a lot of different people, not just on YouTube, but just in the community. You go to different shows, and I feel like new people getting into the hobby want captive bred. So I hope that even though we can get wild caught or even just taken out of Florida's wild, that people are looking for that captive bred tokay or whatever gecko it may be. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think
I
that people are informed, or you think that we're just kind of $15? I'll do that.
I will always preach this. I don't have a problem with wild caught animals. I think importation
Hmm.
and wild caught serve a very important role in this hobby. I think the general public is very confused on what that role is. If there are any captive bred availability out there for that animal,
Yep.
and if you don't intend to breed that animal, I don't think anyone should be getting wild caught unless you have those two in mind. Now, if we're talking like, I think mountain horn dragons are a great example.
Hmm.
Green basilisks, some of those more offshoot animals that there's no captive bred, then of course you'll have to go that importer route. But if you can just save yourself the headache of, because acclimating is fucking tough, man. And sometimes you
Hmm.
can do everything you can, and the animal's not. It's not going to work out, and you're just setting
Well,
yourself
they
for a
could have
bad
parasites.
experience. Parasites. It's just getting the animal used to captivity. It's for something that was in the wild, shoved in a soda bottle, and then shipped for 6 weeks here, and now you got to figure out how to get it used to captivity. It's a
Yep.
challenging task to do. I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I think WoW, yes, WoW does have its place. I don't think anyone in the general public should be really messing around with it, because unless you're experienced and been doing this for a couple of years, you're just setting yourself up for a bad example. Especially if this is some of your first time going, only your first couple of reptiles, you're setting yourself up for heartbreaking, having a bad taste in your mouth. Save the extra
Yeah.
couple of bucks instead of buying. I think younger Tokays are going for like 30, $40. So I think mine are like 150 for a normal, 150,
Yeah.
175. 100 more dollars. You don't have to take it to the vet. You don't have to worry about all the bullshit that comes with wild caught. You get a nice baby that you know is the age. You're going to have a great time with it. It's not going to come with any. I mean, I've gotten Tokays in that passed just because I can only imagine something going on with their organs, kidney failure from dehydration, stuff you can't
Hmm.
see, where you have the animal, looks completely fine, flips a week later, 2 weeks later, it just croaks. You know, if you're the general public,
Yeah.
I understand what it is. I take the risk whenever I do with some of these imports with these morphs. If you're the general public, just save yourself that heartache and that headache. Get a captive bred animal.
I completely agree. And yeah, there is a place for, like you said, there's a place for imports. You know, if you're looking at bringing in new, fresh genetics, you're looking for new morphs, things like that, or you're just starting to establish a species you think is going to be an amazing pet, right? And you're trying to breed them. Great benefits. But for, like you said, for the most part, anybody just looking for a pet or looking to make their lives a little bit easier, captive bred is the way to go. And what, $150? That's nothing these days for a gecko.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying, man.
it really isn't. You're going to spend more on the enclosure and food in a year. So I'm completely with you. Now, when I think of a baby Tokay gecko versus a baby gargoyle gecko, the one thing I would love to rationalize in my head is that, okay, you're saying they're kind of like a lychee. I've had lychee babies, and some of my lychees have been as calm and as docile as my gargoyles.
Not
Now
in
I've
that
heard
aspect. No, wait, we're just talking about adults.
when we talk about adults, I'll be honest with you, I sold them because I want to invest in these guys. But a little part of me was afraid of, like, okay, what day am I going to walk in there and they're going to start snapping at me, right? Now, with Tokay babies, are they also pretty calm when they're babies? Are they more flighty? What are the babies like? And then, you know, obviously you've got videos on how to tame them down, which people can go watch. But what's the difference between the new cows and the Tokays as far as like babies to adults? Are they the
Um,
same?
they're pretty similar to. I used to do day gecko species a couple years ago. It's pretty similar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Super flighty, not too happy. They seem to just be very scared of their surroundings for the first, like, I'd
Okay.
say, like, born to 6 months is usually when they're like they're most fearful. They're just gonna run away at the sight of you. Some of them are like, I wouldn't say handleable, but some of them I can like walk in, do the stuff I need to do in their cage, and they don't really mind. But then some of them are like, they take one look at you and they immediately duck and hide.
Fair enough. So, okay, yeah, that's the exact opposite of the new cow babies.
Yeah, the lychee babies are
So,
like rocks. They don't do anything.
yeah, they're like Drax. I'm invisible.
Exactly.
Right. But yeah, once they realize that they're not invisible and that this is their territory, then they turn into. You think they're a little bit more aggressive, or just on par with Tokays?
I'd probably say on par. Now, it really
Okay,
is just in the cage, but I mean, if you're handling a Tokay Gecko correctly, it shouldn't be nasty outside of the cage once you actually get it out. And if you're doing the stuff
sure.
I'm doing, because like I'll just pin the animal just because I want to get it in and out as fast as I can. Obviously, if you're pinning the animal, having that restriction on it, it's going to be freaked out. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're doing like proper handling techniques, like I've done, I got one of my Tokays, Bert. It's just the most handleable little dude. He doesn't fear. He's like a little bit skittish before getting him out. And you get him out, and he's right on your hand. These leeches, though, man, these things are killers. Holy shit!
Yeah,
Before,
especially some of those GTs.
yeah. So I have two GT mixes. One's it's not Yeti. I don't know how you pronounce it. I just say Yeti. One of them's a Yeti
Yeah.
cross, and one of them's like a Mount Kurogi. I'm butchering that as well.
Okay,
Cross. I think
that's
that one's
okay.
a Mount Kurogi times Nuana. But man, totally fine. They're the chillest little dudes until they got
Mm-hmm.
used to their enclosure and they realized that's their home. Now they're awful little dudes. As soon as especially the big male, when I like, open a hide and see him, he's like, I'm like, calm down. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
But then like you get them out and they're
Just
like,
gonna bounce on you.
all right, we're chill.
Yeah, no, we're not in my place anymore. So with that, would you say, now this might be a little bit gross, but I got to ask, because everybody that talks to me about lychees, they complain about the smeared poop
The
everywhere.
poop is
Are
awful.
tokays the same way?
No,
Or are lychees 10 times worse with
lychees
that?
are horrendous. I
They're like
remember
little Picassos with shit.
I paid off my leeks. I got a pretty much ready to breed pair of high quality
Yeah.
crosses. So I paid a good amount of money. So I paid it off like in a 7-month period. And I remember at the show, was at Florifani, he handed me the cups, and I'm like, "Damn, dude, these things are like covered in poop. Like, why didn't you clean it?" He's like, "Have fun."
Yeah.
Oh,
if only you knew.
A couple of weeks after I got it, I walked in the room one day and just the glass splattered. I mean, it's like the thing just had a fucking chalupa from Taco Bell just all over that. I was like, what the fuck, man? It's awful.
Yeah.
No, Tokay poop's just like, honestly, it's more reminiscent to like Bearded Dragon or Tegu poop. It's solid little nuggets that you just got to clean up.
Yeah, not a fan. That was one thing with my Bearded Dragon. I'd walk into a room some days and it was just
smells so bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just did a video on how gargoyles are better pests than bearded dragons, and that was one of the things I brought up. I was like, yeah, if you have a bearded dragon, people don't realize there's a bearded dragon smell in that room forever, and until you get rid of the whole enclosure. But their poops are just absolutely nasty, especially if they have like a lot of bugs. Then they have
Well, I
those
was
big
gonna
bug
say,
poops.
even the new cows, like my Cresteds,
Mhm.
I've been really pounding them with bugs, and they grow like 3 times as fast with using insects. But their
Oh yeah.
poops smell horrendous, bro. I
Yep.
got sick recently, and I've been working on these builds. So the paper changing kind of took a step back. I think it went a week. And one day I came down here, man. I'm like, holy shit! It's just collectively like 75 tubs of various sizes of poop, and I'm like, oh my god, it smells so bad.
Yep.
And then, like you
Yep.
said, it's like a permanent, especially because I use a lot of plastic. I see some of your enclosures are very similar.
Yep.
It sticks in there. Like you gotta get some like boiling water and really scrub out the plastic. But even though you can clean it as much as you want, there will all be like a reminiscent smell of cricket poop in there.
Yep. It's just that permanent little, reptile. Thank you for keeping me kind of smell. Well, speaking of these enclosures, so these are the Costco shoe drop boxes, and you made a video recently on switching all of your babies over to drop boxes. Are you still liking that? Tell me a little bit about that experience, because
So
I'm seeing that to be a trend.
I have an awful experience with it right now.
Oh, okay.
So I
All
think I should make another video about it. You really got to get a specific one. So I see yours. Are those handles custom or did they come with it?
No. So they're built in. So right now I've got a little latch here. You can't see it because of the glare.
Yeah.
But I actually put this black thing here is Velcro, because it has the magnets here. But if you get a big...
Oh, those are actually...
like
I know
those
are my show displays. I take that
Okay.
exact thing to do shows. But I have a bit of a cheaper one than that. Don't get the cheap ones. If you guys watch my videos, I have a bullseye Super Dalmatian. And actually, the problem is some of the corners, because they're not magnetic, they're kind of pegs. And one corner doesn't attach as well as the other corner. And so that bullseye actually ended up getting out one night.
Oh, no.
I think we're on like night 4, and this place is massive. And unfortunately, the ceiling was never finished. I'm thinking about just doing it myself at this point. But honestly, with the way the collection's growing, I'm going to need a specific property. I don't think I can fit everything in here in the next couple of years, but I can't find them. It's been like I said, 4 nights now, me coming down here at 1 a.m. with my flashlight looking I mean, that's like, I don't know. That's
heartbreaking.
That was like almost ready to breed. I mean, that's like a $1,200 gecko. It's just gone, and it sucks.
Oh, that sucks.
And it happens to everybody. It's one of those things like you kind of just gotta put it out. But I've definitely Velcro is actually smart. I actually might do that. What I do is I just have masking tape, and so that's like my little extra security. So I take it. It's just on the side like yours. And I'll just rip that off, and as soon as it stops losing its stickiness, I'll replace. But I like that Velcro idea. I might Might steal that.
Yeah, steal it. Go right ahead. Yeah, I just, one thing I'd recommend is buy. I went to, I think it was Hobby Lobby. This one has the sticky sides on, on both sides. So I left the tape on the outside.
Hmm.
But what I might go back and do is if you buy one that's the sticky kind, and then you buy the other that's like this kind you're supposed to sew in,
Yeah.
you can actually put that on the outside so that you don't have to actually fill around with tape all over. So you kind of combine the two together.
Oh, I got you.
Would
That's
be my
smart.
my recommendation if you get what I'm saying. And those come in all different colors, so you can customize it, which would be pretty
Oh.
sweet. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's fun playing around with these different ideas. I mean, I drilled holes into them to add ventilation because when I first used them, they grew mold like crazy. They did not have good ventilation. Now, granted, depends on where you live. If you live in Arizona, it's probably fine. But
Yeah, well, I think that those models specifically, like with the ones I have, they have back ventilation that's pretty well done.
yeah,
But I don't think I actually see any ventilation for
there's
those.
none. No, it's
Yeah,
just the handle. So there's a handle up top and there's a handle on the front,
yeah, yeah.
and that's why I don't put really small babies because they could actually get through that.
I
So
actually,
yeah.
so I have the same problem. There's a little hole in the handle, and
Hmm.
I just put like some sort of tape to tape it off. Well, I guess one of them got the tape off one of my cave geckos because I'm out
Oh,
here
jeez.
2 nights ago looking for this fucking Crested, and what do I see? A little baby cave gecko wandering around.
Oh, jeez.
So I ended
Dude,
up,
you're having escape artists left and right.
yeah. Usually, this has been. I don't know if it's the move and just everything settling in,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are. Well, I guess these are also fairly new setup, so there's some tweaking that goes with that. But yeah, I
Right.
found that one, so I redid the tape. That one was a little off, but I originally had them for Cresteds that were bigger, usually like 15, 16 grams, and this was
Hmm.
cave geckos are a lot more slender than a Crested, and he just kind of wiggled his way out of it.
Yep. Yeah, it happens. It's things we don't think about till after they happen to us. So I don't know. I keep playing around with different ideas. I like DIY stuff, but then I'm like, do I just spend the money and get PVC, or whatever
Oh,
it
none of
is?
these
Do I just
costs, man. Holy
Oh,
shit.
dude, it's so expensive. There's this one person up in Milwaukee, Milwaukee Custom Cages that honestly, I'll probably, if I'm going to buy, I'm going to probably buy from him. I saw his quality was really awesome at Schaumburg, and his prices are the most reasonable I've seen by far. If anybody knows nice quality for cheaper, please let me know. I'd appreciate the tip. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, too, with me doing this YouTube channel, kind of just thinking of ideas, it's always kind of hard to think about the next 10 ideas to do in your videos. And I'm like, do I do just a custom build? Wood prices are down, like you said. Just when you're creating stuff, you got the dry lock, you can go and seal it off. I watch is it Serpa Design?
Ah, yeah.
Has some amazing tutorials on that stuff, and like, yeah, maybe I'd do that and make that a video, for Gargoyle Geckos. So if you think you want to see that, yeah, put the comments down below. Let me know. But yeah, but do you tend to want to spend the money on the fancy enclosures, or
No.
are you no? You get creative. The grow tent was a kind of a cool thing
Bro,
I
this
saw.
is I'm like the fucking chaotic evil or chaotic neutral fucking Walmart reptile breeder because I just find the cheapest way to do things so I can keep on doing, because things always
You
need
can
bigger
buy more geckos.
enclosures. Yeah, and it's one of the,
Yeah.
or even like rods. I'm like, all right, these things need enclosures. I got to figure something out. Most of
Yep.
like any of my fancy enclosures, besides the two AP cages, that was like I think I've had those for like 8 years now, maybe longer,
Okay.
because those were for my bearded dragon and my red tail boa, which were my first and third reptile that I ever owned. Everything else has been sponsorships. Like if
Nice.
it's a nice enclosure, it came from someone giving it to me because I don't have the funds to. And like, this comes, I think I definitely pulled the trigger a little too early, but I'm too spiteful to go back, so I'm just going to figure this shit out. It's eventually going to make me enough
You'll
money where
make
I'll
it
be.
work.
Yeah, that's pretty much that's my go-to right now.
That's
Luckily for
awesome.
YouTube, I get nice enclosures still because people just give them to me and I say nice things about them. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm more of a, and I think I'm kind of hoping too, especially with the Dropbox shoe things. I don't know what you call them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
hopefully
That.
hopefully this kind of gets the PVC guys to me. And I understand a lot of it is material costs as well, and it is kind of
Right.
difficult. But to justify that much money, man, even I think the best one over here that I've researched if for us in the States is going to be all American cages. But for
Okay.
a bare bones 12 by 12 by 2, which is like the minimum I'd put a Crested in, you're still looking
Hmm.
at like you got to get a vent hole, right? So any of those
Yeah.
little added attachments, you're looking at like $105 per cage. I'm just,
Hmm.
I got 30. I'm going to spend that's like $3,000, right? No, I'm going to go to the container
Right, and they're not
store.
even big enclosures.
Yeah, they're small. I'm going to go to the container store, get one of those. I think it comes out to like an 18 by 18 by something for like $40. I'm going to go get a 4-inch hole drill out some
Hmm.
ventilation and get some screen. I'm going to call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Have you seen the ones from the container store? Have you seen like Robbie's reptiles?
yes, I have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's going to
actually, he
be
just did a follow-up video on everybody critiquing those.
some people have. I don't want to start shit in the news. The Crested Gecko community, very clicky. Very, there are
Yeah,
clicks and everyone. It's very strange. So I'm not. I don't want to get in the middle of it. I just produce Crested Geckos.
sure.
I'm not trying to
Yep.
get into the Crested Gecko community, whatever. But yeah, some people, and I
Yeah.
honestly, I think the people that are saying a lot of bad stuff, I think it's
Hmm.
mostly has to do with the fact that Robbie is the container store guy. Whenever you think of container store, you think of Robbie's reptiles, and Robbie.
Yep.
Some people don't like Robbie, and I think some people have issues with those enclosures because Robbie does them, not because they're bad. I think they're completely fine. I think people's issues with them are blown way out of proportion. They look like a great enclosure, and
Yep.
for a rack style setup, where if you go anywhere else, you're spending thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands in my case for what I would need. Or
Yeah.
I'm gonna get these for $40 a pop for everyone that I need for it. I'm gonna spend $800, $900. Wait for they go on sale because they always do massive sales. Then
It's a
call it
BOGO
good.
sale right now.
Right
Yeah.
now, well, shit, man. Give them. I need 2 more months. I need to sell some more geckos. Then give me that
Right.
BOGO again. Holy shit.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I mean, he's almost sold me on him, and you know, I don't want to go down the drama route either. But I work with high school students for a living. I don't need the drama. I have enough of that.
Hey, they don't grow out of
So
it, apparently.
yeah, apparently not. But yeah, to me, that's one thing that is cool about the Gargoyle community so far. You know, and things change as things grow. But I have yet to meet somebody who breeds gargoyles, you know, pretty heavily. That wasn't just so nice, you know, just reaching out. Everybody is pretty cordial. It doesn't seem as clicky, but again, it's a lot smaller of a community, so it's easier to be more
It's a
kumbaya.
absolute same with Tokay geckos. I've yet to meet a bad Tokay gecko breeder that was an asshole. Everyone that I still hang out with today, it was when I was that first
Yeah.
dude with a pair of Tokays asking a billion stupid questions, and none of them had anything. Everyone helped me out. They were great, and to this day, everyone's so I try
Yeah.
to do the same with people that have a pair because I remember like all the hospitality I got, great community. I think it's because it's a
Yep.
small. Once you get to like this big, I think egos get in the way because now it's like a ladder of like who's the
Yep.
best at this. Like I don't know, who you can't say like who's the best Tokay gecko breeder, and I guess mainly because you know phenotypes do play a large part. And other than that,
Yeah.
it's just how big's your wallet to get these imports that are coming in. But I don't think that there's, in my opinion, I don't think there is a best Tokay gecko breeder. I think we all have our specific niche projects. If we go on like specific things, like if we're talking like reduce or granites, Denise from Luckyfoot, she's the best. If we're talking about patternless, you got JT. If you're talking about some platinum stuff, Josh. So I think like people carve out their own way that makes them great instead of people thinking they're the best at this period.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you know that's the same. You know, I could list off you know who has really amazing you know certain color blotches and who has you know, but I think also it's not just the animals they're producing, but how long they've been in the game. That's one thing that I think you see a lot of new people who jump in, and I don't try to pretend I'm an expert at all. That's why I'm interviewing a lot of people is I want to learn from you guys. Because even if you've been in the game 3 years more than me, well, 3 years is a lot when it comes to the reptile industry. And, you know,
I think
not that we
three
can't
years.
evolve.
There's an old saying is like you're not a real breeder until you've done it for 3 years. because
Oh yeah,
that's
I
about
mean, I
how
think that's
long
the
it takes for people
turnaround.
to that's about how long it takes for people to get out of it, that they get sick of it.
Yep. And so if you've been in this for a really long time, especially with one species, I'm going to listen to you. You're doing something right if you're sticking around. So that's awesome. But I think that getting information out there, kind of going back to, a lot of those old school type breeders, is that they don't want to be on camera. They don't want to reach out and get involved as much. Some do, but I think that's where, me jumping on YouTube, you jumping on YouTube, spreading the information out. Once we learn it from these people, it can be a really cool avenue to get the information out to people and kind of build, because the next generation, that's how I feel like most people find what they want to get into, right? Is they're going to, Google it. And then if it comes up on YouTube, great. So I think, hopefully we help out in one way, shape or another. What was your initial reason to start your channel? If you can go back, what was it? You started 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was like July 4th, 2019, I want to say, was when we started YouTube. So
Okay.
it was simply for the fact of advertising. I knew with Crested Geckos, it's such a saturated market. I need to get myself out there in any way that diversifies me from everyone else. And
Yep.
YouTube was that thing.
It does help. I feel like, people feel like they know you just watching your
Yeah, there's
videos,
that like
right?
parasocial relationship into it, which,
Right.
which is cool
It's
for
like,
the
I've
most
never
part.
met you.
But yeah, there's I love all my fans. I love the people I meet like at shows. Oh man, there's some
Yeah.
fucking weird. People will come up to my table and they'll be like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hello." And like,
Hi.
I watch your videos. I'm like, okay.
Thank you. Don't finish that thought.
That's like
Uh,
it's like 5%. Everyone else is very very nice and friendly.
yeah.
But I think that there's always a flip side too, especially when you get not. I'm not big by any means. I guess in like the reptile community I am, but like YouTube space I'm
Hmm.
very small when it comes to the other YouTubers. But I think I've gotten to the point where like most people know
You
who I
still come
am,
up. Yeah.
and it's kind of like that weird thing. 'Cause at the end of the day, I've only been taking this seriously for 5 years, something around there. It's not a long
Sure.
time, right? So there's a lot of people that are doing this a lot longer, and I think like people just get the wrong impression of me when they meet me at shows. Like they think I'm just kind of be a dick, or I'm like trying to be a know-it-all, but I'm really a dipshit. And at the end of the day, I don't really know what I'm doing, man. I just breed
Yeah.
some stuff, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I'll figure out why it doesn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my perspective, being one of those fans watching you, you seem just really down to earth. You're very open, and so I think that's why people probably approach you, which is pretty nice thing to have. I
Up until
remember
I
the
said that
first.
part earlier about the fans being weird. Now everyone, no
Exactly.
one is gonna want it.
No, 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 no. Next show you go to, I want everybody who sees this just to stare at you, like not say a word, just walk up and go.
That's what people do. It's like 5 seconds before they're like like
We're just gonna make you crack.
they're waiting for me to recognize them. It's like one of
Yep.
those things where like it's a friend you haven't seen in a long, so you're like, it's like one of those.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I'm extremely extroverted, and so what I would do in that situation, I guarantee you, is if someone just like stared at me, I would like just make up a name on the spot and go like, "Hey, Jimmy! Hey, it's been a while." He'd be like, "What the hell?" So I don't know. I like messing with people though. I remember the first time I went to Tinley after really watching a bunch of YouTube. And, obviously I was a little bit starstruck seeing certain people, seeing David, seeing with Tiki's Geckos. And then Dave Kaufman was another one. I didn't realize how tall he was in real
Yeah, he's a
life.
fucking giant
And
dude.
he's huge.
He's like not just tall; he's a big guy.
Yeah. It is funny because I'm trying not to be that awkward, like, hey, I see you on the YouTubes, it's like, no, I wanted to like think of something to say. And there's just some people I walk by, I'm like, I got nothing. I got nothing to talk about with this person. I'm just gonna maybe next time. So, but any tips for your fans who do want to reach out to you next time they see you? What should they say to you?
I think what you're
Is
saying
there a good
is pretty
icebreaker?
good. Yeah, just something. Just say I've got cool geckos or something. You know what? You know what would be a great icebreaker? Just walk up
What's
to my
that?
table and put money down and say, I want that gecko. That is the best.
Oh, that's a great
icebreaker.
icebreaker. Yes. And I've actually talked about this on some of my previous podcasts, but that is not that you have to pay for a mentor in this hobby.
That is
But
the best
man,
way to.
it is if you want to learn from somebody, buy a gecko from them. I think it really opens that door.
Not only if you do that, I'm not saying buy only from Dakotah Blue Exotics, but
Oh,
there's
no.
stuff. Richie from the Gecko King is a great example. I love bringing it up because he makes amazing
Mm-hmm.
geckos.
Yeah, he's got nice
If you
stuff.
keep buying from people, you get better deals. I've thrown so much money at Richie now that I get great friend deals from him because I've known him for so long and I keep doing business with him. If you keep coming back, if you come to me and your dude has bought 3 geckos, I'm going to heavily discount your 4th, 5th, 6th gecko because you keep coming back for more
Yep.
geckos from me.
Yeah. No, because you know that, maybe that first gecko someone paid just straight sticker, and it's a nice way of just thanking repeat customers, right? I mean, it's why Kohl's gives a coupon every time you buy anything. They send you a 30% off coupon. They know the psychology of it. So, no, that's awesome. Well, kind of wondering with your channel, right? Were there ever times that, I'm just starting out with this and the podcast and all that? Were there ever times where you're just like, what the hell am I doing? And why am I doing this? And have you ever almost thought of just, hanging it up? And what kept you going?
You know what kept me going?
I think I know based on our conversation, but what? Tell us what kept you going.
Spite kept me going.
Okay.
I got no. There's no actual beef between me and Wickens, but watching because I started my channel. I think Wickens started 6, so I started 6 months after he started. And
Okay.
very similar. I had a couple of hundred. He had like 2,000, and then one fucking day, that kid went from 2 to 20 to 60 to 100. So I know that shit's possible. I just got to figure it out. I got to figure out. So that's what kept me going because I had like imaginary competition, like an imaginary rival, if you will. Like I know I can get to this point. I just have to keep doing it, and one day I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to eat more sweaty pickles. Is that what his stick is lately?
That's the stick, I guess. It's pickles now.
There's so many of his like reels where I'm like, why are we talking about pickles? I like pickles, but all right, cool.
I remember there used to be a group chat between a couple of us smaller guys when we first were going. I kept saying to myself, I'm like, this motherfucker's going to run out of top 5s eventually. He can't keep going. To this day, still top 5s. It's impressive. I am honestly impressed. He's kept it going it's been years now of top 5 videos, 2 times a week.
Yep. No, he's got some good stuff, and you're always both on my feed, so I don't know what the difference is with blowing up or not blowing up, but hopefully you guys are having fun with it.
I think, and at the end of the day, I stopped. I honestly, I think 3 years in, I stopped my chase of the YouTube success. I think Adam has a beautiful formula because top 5 is such a general category for everyone who loves reptiles to get into, and even non-reptile people. If you get some, dangerous reptiles, biggest, that's going to get the general population in there because they're like, oh, because reptiles are an interesting exotic thing to the general public. So I think he has a very good formula down. I think it's done very well for him, and I just I've tried the top 5 game. They always do well for me. I can't fucking stand editing them, man. They're the most painstakingly monotonous, boring things. It's B-roll for this, transition, number 2. I can remember those days of editing them being like, okay, I'm on number 3, just 2 more and I'm done. I just didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to like be bored editing these videos. So I've kind of just done myself.
But you're really good at just storytelling, I feel like. The way that you say things, it's not in that 1, 2, 3 kind of format like you said, but you tell a story in the way that you do, which is really unique, and I appreciate you doing that.
I think it works well for the community as well. While I still have a very small community, I think we go up to like 500 subs a month, something like that. It's a community that does keep coming back to me. I've done some like looking head to head. I've got, I think it's TubeBuddy or whatever that little program is to look up stuff. You can
Sure.
see people with like triple my following when it comes to subscriber size. View wise, we're getting around the same. They're beating me by a very small amount, comparatively speaking, to like 26,000 to, whatever, 70, 80, 90,000 subs. So I think while
Yep.
I'm slower growing, it's a community that is pretty fortified and coming back and keeps wanting more. My views stay very consistent. And at the end of the day, that's all I really care about is the fact that people do, when they do subscribe, they're like here for the long run. They want to keep coming back and seeing
Yeah.
more of the videos. And honestly, I'd rather have
Well,
that kind of community than some of these bigger guys. Again, not no hate or anything, but I see some of your guys' comment section of children, and I got no problem with children, but when your comment section is 200 comments of kids saying "wow" and "cool," I don't know. I like my comment section. People are witty. They're smart asses. It's a fun time reading the comments and replying to them. I have a good time with my community.
yeah. Yeah. And I think hopefully that's what I'm going for is I know I'm not going to be huge. Gargoyles, for the most part, are not something even as big as crested geckos. And so I'm so niched down with this. At least you have other animals. I mean, you've got your monitors, you've got your water dragons, you've got all your different geckos.
Listen,
Yeah, I got to give it to you. I don't know how you managed to keep them all, but
what's smaller, gargoyles or tokays?
okay, that's fair. But that's fair. But you've got other animals to kind of spice some things up where I've sold off everything and I didn't keep B-roll. So I don't even know where people get B-roll anymore. Like, do people subscribe or do you actually just shoot all your B-roll?
I save all of I still have like Crocs red-eyed Croc stinks I haven't had in years. I still got that
Yeah,
B-roll in there if I want to pull it out one day.
right.
Yeah, so all
So,
of my B-roll is mine. I don't do the I know Adam, he gets a lot from like Discords. I know a couple people, or they'll do they're like in that Geo shit where they'll like screen record it. I think I've done that
yep,
very very sparsely, but 99% of my stuff is all of my guys.
that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still learning. I have no idea where I'm grabbing some stuff here and there, but most of it's mine just because I have nowhere else to get it, and I'm too cheap to pay for it so far.
I didn't
So,
even know
but
people do people pay for B-roll?
yeah, there's subscription services for it.
It's fucking wild. I'd never do that.
There's your next thing. Just nothing but Tokay B-roll. Sell it, to one of those services
My
for you.
Tokay B rolls,
So
it's the same fucking shots for like 7 months. Because I think in these new enclosures, actually B roll will be a little bit more variety. But like,
yep.
I think the last time I paired these geckos was like April of 2023, and then the move happened, so I separated and recycled. I had them in these
Hmm.
deli cups, and that's the same B roll I use to this day. It's so hard
Nice.
getting good quality B roll of them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, I feel like every one of my shots, like you said, is like you learn one or two techniques of like a zoom here, zoom there. And it's like, do these all look the same? Hopefully not to everybody else, but they do to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, very cool. Well, I wanted to also ask you, just kind of going about your collection. You've got quite a few animals right now. I love the monitor stuff. I hands healing pretty well. That was one of my favorite episodes you did. Sorry that you had to go through the bite, but man, that was a story. I was on the edge of my seat with your stuff.
I specifically made that video as
Yep.
low effort as it's like 29 minutes of me sitting down and rambling for it not to blow. And you know what? I did make it was kind of clickbaity thumbnail and title. I'll give you that. But shit, man, I think that thing blew up to like 50,000 views in like like a week or two. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Now everyone, I had like fucking Deadhead Reptiles that produces Croc monitors. I get Kevin
Hmm.
McCurley. I'm like, oh my god, dude. I was
Are
like,
they just giving you shit?
not giving me shit, but it's like, oh great, Kevin McCurley, like these guys I look up to know I was a dipshit and got bit by my Argus and it like fucked up my
Yeah.
hand. It was just one of
Oh
those
man.
things.
Hey, you still have it?
No, after the move, we've downside like super heavily, and the
Okay.
move just made that so much. I'm looking around. Like I said, I think I got like another year before I need to buy another facility to house stuff off
Yeah.
property because I can't. I'm looking around like maybe if I move this over here and deconstruct this, I can put some stuff, especially like 200 to 300 gecko babies. I don't know where I'm gonna put them, but we're pretty
Yeah, sell them.
much There's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a don't.
Black Friday
I'm
deal.
gonna call. It's gonna be on the floor deals. Whatever bin ends up on the floor is gonna be. But at this
Not a
point,
bad strategy. I like
we're
it.
pretty much just geckos. I still have my original Tegu pair. I still have my quinces because I've grown those out for too long to just get rid of them. And then we
Yeah.
got some frogs, just little frogs, little enclosures, and then some tarantulas. And I think, other than Viv, my red tail, and bearded dragon, that's about it. Everything else is geckos at this point. Oh, Wilson, my sulcata. I still have him.
Oh, nice. So, do you have a favorite right now? I know that could probably change day to day, but like, if there was one animal that you just would never give up, what's that one?
Oh, man. When it comes to personality, that's
Just
always
the whole thing.
that's always gonna be. I think like when I think of like a pet, right? So I'm not thinking like obviously like a super red Tokay just for what it is. That's gonna be. But I think like if I could only keep one specific animal, it would
Yep.
probably either be Blue my Tegu or Viv the red tailed boa because she is just such a stupid. I have her in this reptile room tour. I had her out for most of it, and she's just doing the goofiest shit and just wrecking stuff. She's like wrapping around my face. It's a good time. I couldn't imagine, doing reptiles without her. And Tegus, they were my dream reptile when I first started, so it'd be another weird. So I sold all the other Tegus, but I was like, I'm gonna keep
Mm-hmm.
this pair does great together, and I have space to separate if anything does go wrong. But they've never had an issue, and so I was like, I'll keep a
Nice.
pair, and they have been doing good. And if they don't do good, I'll set up another enclosure for her, and we'll just have the two. But I don't think I'll ever have a time where I also don't have Tegus.
Okay. And those are black and whites, right?
Yeah, the female's a Florida import, so she has like this nice like fire belly, and then she's a black and
Oh,
white,
nice.
and then the male is a blue cross with black and white.
Very cool. Yeah, I obviously love the geckos. I've pared down just because the boss of the house won't let me keep much more at this point. We have 3 dogs, a cat. I have a fish tank, but
I've been trying to, man, with this quince. I bought a 40
mhm.
gallon, so I'm gonna fully
Okay.
stock it. Live plants, some guppies, just something cheap because I know he's gonna munch on them,
Yeah,
but just to have something in there.
that'd be
And
sweet.
man, I'm like, this is a slippery slope, man. It's just gonna be this one. I can't because I see fish,
Uh-uh.
and it's the same thing as reptiles. I'm like, damn, dude, this would be cool to have. And this one, I'm like, dude, I already have no room. There's no way I can do fish.
Yeah, I actually look back and kind of regret it. I love fish. I could talk about fish just as long as I talk about reptiles. But man, is that a money hole.
Yeah, dude.
I did my first saltwater tank and I only have a 20 gallon with one fish in it. Like literally just one, maroon clownfish. And it's fun. The corals are addictive. They're fun. They're not cheap. And what's fun is if you need to turn around and sell them, you drop the price like it's a used car right off the lot. It's nuts what they lose in value once you take it home.
The
But
saltwater that's like a next level thing. I went to the Petco and I'm like, even like their stand and all their displays and stuff they have. I'm like, damn, dude.
dude, it's so easy actually. I mean, I say that it's if you have an RO system in your house, reverse osmosis, it's ridiculously easy if you want to go and do saltwater versus freshwater. There are some freshwater fish that I tried to keep alive that were just so much more temperamental and you need the pH just right and everything else like that. I if you keep like a 40 gallon tank and you don't mind spending a few bucks every week on pre-made saltwater, it's super, super easy. So, but it's fun and it's addictive and it's really expensive. And so I can only choose one or the other. And I'm choosing right now the reptiles. But what I'd like to do eventually is, have you ever had collared lizards?
No, but I follow Collared Lizard Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got some good ones.
he's got some amazing ones. And that's another community that just, I actually had them for a little bit, sold them. I want to buy them back because that community was fantastic too. But they're almost like little mini bearded dragons that can cohab.
And they're prettier, like
And
way prettier. I mean, I guess
yeah,
red monsters are cool, but other than that, like, I don't know. A blue and yellow lizard, you can't really beat that.
Yeah, they are so chill. I'll send you some videos of mine that they're so easy to handle, especially the captive bred ones. And there's so many cool breeders out there, like the Collared Lizard Ranch, that can sell you
Yeah.
some really cool babies. And yeah, so it'd be fun. JP's Reptiles is another channel that's around my size. Well, they're bigger than me. I don't know if you've seen his stuff, but yeah, he's got some cool stuff on collared lizards as
Yeah,
well.
he used to comment on a lot of my videos. I don't think I haven't seen him as much anymore.
Yeah, because we're in the Midwest. Where are you right now? Like,
Oh, I thought you were in Canada
regionally?
talking about all the Canada stuff. I just assumed.
Oh no, yeah, I got the accent. So,
I'm over in Massachusetts now.
oh, cool, very nice. Yeah, I'm in Chicagoland area, so it's kind of fun.
Oh, dude, Tinley's right there.
Oh, dude, you throw a stone and hit Schaumburg and Tinley. I've got family that lives right there, which is pretty sweet. That's why I went to all this stuff for years. And actually that kind of brings me back when I was looking at what I kind of want to get into after, I went to college and I actually started having some money. I went to the Scott Smith All Animal Expo. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's one that a lot of gecko breeders from the Midwest all start going to. And it's still running every other weekend here. And I meet some of the breeders there and I'm like, oh, you're actually really well known. Like you're a big deal. And I had no idea. And then going to Tinley, I just went there for fun. Like I didn't think it was a thing until I kind of realized like, oh, why is everybody naming their reptile Tinley? So it works. So I'm spoiled here. Definitely. Well, I really appreciate your time. We're a little over, we're close to an hour and a half recording right now, which is awesome. But really, I wanted to pick your brain about differences between the Tokays and the Gargoyles. I think we've nailed that. I just want to say thank you so much. You have such great videos. I reached out to you. You couldn't have been nicer. And just thanks for giving me your time. I mean, I'm a nobody. So for you to say yes to come on my podcast is an absolute joy. I really do appreciate it.
I'm always down to talk about reptiles. I never really cared about the size stuff. If it's like doing, especially podcasting, just chilling and talking about reptiles for hour and a half. I never really cared about that. I just like talking about reptiles.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. And not that most people who are going to see this don't already know you, but where if someone wants to go and find one of those babies you're talking about, maybe get a floor bin deal, where should they?
Next season. You're
right, next season.
We figured out what to do this year. Next year, we'll have to figure out. I'm thinking about well, again, the issue is like those colubrid rack systems. Like the 36, I think Sea Serpents is the best price I can find. But I would need like 4 or 5 of them. And then that's, again, like $1,200-$1,500. So I'm like, I got to sell babies to get stuff to put babies. So I got space for babies. It's like a never-ending cycle. But you guys can go check me out at DakotahBlueExotics.com, where I put everything in there. I finally caved and built a website. It was the most pain-in-the-ass thing I've ever done. Like, I think to date, since I built it, like 4,000 people have gone to it. So it's very nice. You should go check it out. I put a lot of time and effort into it. Very cool. Yeah, go check out his website. And are you on Morph Market or no? Yep, I am on Morph Market. As much as I bitch about Morph Market like everyone else, I am on Morph Market. It is the place to be, So, well, thank you so much again for being on this. And so thank you and have a wonderful rest of your night, man. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Dakotah. I really had a blast filming that with him. What an awesome guy. I really appreciate him coming on. But I do want to go and just remind everybody that in the last video with Darren from Firehouse Geckos, we are doing not 1, but 2 gecko giveaways. So if you don't know how to enroll and be a part of that giveaway, go back to that video and watch. You can watch just the ending, but watch the whole thing if you haven't seen it yet. But go back there, see how you're going to go and enter into the giveaway. Right now, we're about 200 subscribers away from our very first giveaway. I'm really excited. Hopefully, we can give a gecko away really soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Gecko Cove. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more Gargoyle Gecko content, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there.
I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove.